Fellas, Adrian, you readjusted your camera, didn't you?
No, I don't think I did.
Yes, you did.
I must have bumped it.
Oh,
Sorry.
so,
Oh, so when I press it and mute it, I guess I move it.
yeah. You're good. You're good. You're good. It's not that bad. You're just a little bit. I can change it, but it just it doesn't really matter. How's it going, guys? It's been a minute since we've done one of these things. What's going on in your lives?
I just love the way the country's being run. I don't know about you guys, so.
Oh well, yeah. That's kind of what we're going to talk about today. I was hoping that we could get a little banter before.
No, right.
So
I figured
you re-
that was the easy joke, man. I had to. You
you
set it
ready?
up.
You ready to get in? The segue is
Uh,
upon us now.
uh, no,
Billy.
man. I'm making it. My bad. I'm gonna sneak in before Billy goes and really answer the question. For the most part, I'm still good. Still, family life's all good. Kids in school. Oldest is
Mm,
at DePaul now. Second semester or second quarter at
yeah.
DePaul, and then the
Well,
twins. They finished up eighth grade here soon. Will be in high school. Seems like they was just here, born and all that fun stuff.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, everything's good at church. Work's good. So like, you know, I have that kind of privileged guilt where I'm like, everything's going good in my
Oh
life, my
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just now I'm like, oh,
It's funny. I get that too, man. Because I have that kind of like. Cause I live the most charmed life of maybe all of us in this little trio here, where I play music and drink for a living. You know, and I don't have the responsibility of kids. I decided to have a little baby music career, and we did that. But I have the same kind of feelings. Like, yeah, man, things are going good in my life. Other than I am legitimately worried about like what's going on with our country. Uh, and yeah, there's like a small little tinge of guilt until I remember all those people that think I'm going crazy. Right? The people are like, "You're crazy talking, Luke," and then I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm speaking what I think is the truth." And they're like, "No, you must be going crazy." Right? And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Things aren't going well in my life. I'm going crazy. So I guess you have it right, sir, or sirs, or whoever's talking to me. But yeah, I totally feel that, man. Totally feel the just that like kind of yeah, things are going good for me, but that what do we say about privilege? Right? So
Well, yesterday I did a 3.5 hour drive to another town in Virginia to take somebody to the dentist to have all his teeth pulled out, only to find out that his blood sugar was 405, and so the dentist would not do it. So I drove 3.5 hours back, 14.5 hours total day, and the temperature on my Jeep said we had a 37-degree variation,
mm,
and the high was 24.
dang. I just realized I don't have the chat up here, but I don't know what to do about that because we haven't done
I
this.
don't like being cold.
I'm sorry, Billy. I'm sorry I got distracted by technology problems.
Did I distract you?
That's not it. Where is the chat? Oh
I
well.
don't know. I hadn't found that yet.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
I guess we're doing one without a chat. So I just I kind of like to have people talk in, but hey, I've forgotten how to do this. It's been so long since we've done this, so I apologize right there. You know, maybe I'll figure it out as we go because I've seen this video 3 times now. I can probably recite it. Anyway, so yeah, Billy, fill us in. You got through the Christmas holiday. It's been
yeah,
a month since then.
yes, and it's cold as hell.
Yeah, and a lot of snow.
I we've had ice and snow, and we have winters have been for me. I'm a southern guy.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I was born in Selma, Alabama, in the middle of July, so my starting point was 110 degrees, and I don't do cold well. So even though like the first grade I lived in Pittsburgh, kindergarten, but I don't do cold well, and last year was really hard because we had 3 weeks in a row where it never got over 20 degrees. And I know one of you is laughing at me
Well, I mean,
because it's Chicago.
well, but you know,
And
he's with us. He's with us.
I'm
he
from there.
he
So I'm with you. Don't feel
yeah.
bad.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
He
So
probably feels
so
it.
this year we haven't had the same depth of cold, which it's been really cold, and we've been below 20 and down to 0 and below for a number of times. But this year the snow came, that big giant mega storm that was supposed to dump 15 inches of snow on us dropped 3 inches of ice and snow on us
Mm.
instead. So uh, I had to actually cancel services because there was just an inch and a half of ice on the parking lot that we could come in and have them, plow it, but all they're going to do is get the snow off the ice and make it worse. So we had to cancel 2 times in a row and do Zoom worship, which is always fun. That's why they set up back here, um, and so it's that's been no fun, and uh, but otherwise things are going fine. uh, there was something else I was going to tell you, but obviously I got myself distracted too, so not worth it.
Oh, there it is. There's the chat. Okay, we got it going. I was a little nervous there, but we got it now. Okay, all right. So I wonder if the Facebook chat is working. If anybody in Facebook land is out there, give us a chat. I want to see if it works. Maybe I can test it right here. We got only Twitch. Maybe the Facebook and YouTube will pop up later. It's a little slow sometimes. All right. Well, we're just going to do what we do. Now that I guess the chit chat is a little out of the way. So last time we watched a video from this Dark Matter 2525 guy. It was like his cartoon, if I remember correctly.
Right on
Samson. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Well, we did watch that, but we also watched before that.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah,
Which was
yeah. We watched his cartoons. The way I want to set this up is that like he made those cartoons because he's an atheist and you guys are being subjected since I'm the one who picks out the material. It seems like you're going to be subjected to a little bit more atheist stuff sometimes. But he and he'll explain this in the video we're about to watch. But he kind of became popular around 2008, I guess.
That's what he said.
Yeah, something like and he'll say it in the video. And I guess there's been like different waves of atheism throughout history, like that or agnosticism, or this kind of thought, right? Maybe even starting with the Enlightenment, right? But he talks about like how you have these kind of like times when you're like a contrarian and it feels cool to be a contrarian, and that'll set the tone a little bit for what he's about to say. But we're going to keep going further and further and further down that kind of hole a little bit. And, this video, as it says, when society chooses the villain. I put out, a little snippet of earlier. The volume's really low. My volume is really low, Ed, or I don't know. I can turn my volume up a little bit here. Sorry about that. I got distracted by the tech issues again. But anyway, we're gonna keep going down this hole about when the society chooses the villain, and we talked about fascism earlier in an episode, Adrian, in July, somewhere around there, and it was Umberto Eco's 14 like characteristics of fascism, right?
Right.
So we're going to kind of expand on that a little bit more, I guess. Maybe not exactly from the framing of Umberto Eco's 14 characteristics. But as we progress down this video, it'll talk more and more about it. It's a little bit testimonial, which I hope will, give us some testimonial time as well, and give us our little examples of what we might have seen also. Are you guys ready? Ready to go ahead and start the video?
Yes.
Cool. All right.
I was trying to find the chat there. I didn't do it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let's start her up.
You sent me a link. I just don't know where it's at.
Oh, I got to send you that link again, huh? Where do I have that? I wish I knew how to do this crap better, man. It is, where is it? And I guess I'll need to send it to you too, Adrian. All right. Can I do this in a way that you don't see another one? Okay. All right. Sorry to all the people in the audience that, I wanted to get these technical issues out of the way, but Adrian got on his expected time, and then I couldn't hear him for 10 minutes while he was still on.
Right.
Billy was still driving, so, it is.
No, I wasn't driving. I just forgot how much stuff I had to rearrange and replug in a different location.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. All right.
So I started late.
There's the chat for you, Adrian, and Billy. Here's the chat for you. Okay, and those will be in your Facebook Messenger.
Oh, maybe that's why I couldn't find it.
Okay, are we ready to get started? Yes. All right, here we go. Everyone's volume is really low. I believe that's not going either. So 1 second. Jeez.
We're hearing it.
Yeah, you should be hearing it. Honestly, this should be. There we go. Try that.
But one happens more than the other.
Start it all the way over.
In a capital.
Have to do the cuts when I do the edits.
Does art imitate life, mimesis, or does life imitate art, anti-mimesis? Well, obviously both happen, but one happens more than the other. In a capitalist society, I believe it's mimesis. Art imitates life. That's because relatable art sells. So the art that's going to become profitable is the art that's going to resonate with people. That which is profitable is emulated and thus becomes more common. So, what we see in our art is a reflection of our society. Now, I want you to think of all the popular literature, movies, shows, video games, etc., that glorify the villain, focus upon the villain, make the villain the protagonist, empathize with the villain, or make the villain a far more interesting character. Think of how much our media gives the protagonist traits that would be more fitting of an antagonist, and then ask yourself what that says about us.
Deadpool!
I think like Tony Soprano.
I mean, it's gonna flash up all these kind of guys, right?
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers. You remember that movie from the 90s?
Vaguely. I mean, I knew it existed, but I think I saw it once when I was younger.
Yeah. Everybody knows, I guess, about Thanos now. He's like the one, right? Although
Thanos was right.
I'm partial to the Joker from the Dark Knight there. is that Training Day?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, this is a show I haven't watched yet, The Boys, and I really need to.
Yeah.
Pour me out. Great job on that one. But like Deadpool and some of them also had heroic, some of those.
I don't know if Deadpool would
Right.
be like the villain you cheer for. He's just kind of a
He's
crass.
the anti-hero.
Yeah, he's kind of a crass
The
hero,
worst.
right? Yeah.
But then, like Walter White, if you haven't seen that, I'm sorry.
Spoiler
alert.
alerts, yeah.
Walter White wasn't the he was a good guy who went bad. That's thus the title Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Trying to do what was right for his family, and
Yeah, but it went way beyond. Yeah,
it led him down a path that he could no longer get past. And I think until the very end, you didn't really understand why he was able to go that far.
I think the question is, were you cheering for him by the end?
No, I was cheering for the little guy,
Jesse. So he's still kind of like,
I know, but he's kind of breaking the other way. He's trying to get out of it.
Maybe he's trying to get
He's
out
not
of it.
Too much.
I just don't think.
I never saw them as at odds like that. Like, I guess mine was like, I'm rooting for them to like figure it out and get back together. So even at the end, it wasn't so much Walt versus Jesse. It was, I don't want Walt to get caught, but I also don't want Jesse to like, therefore be the one to go to. Like, I didn't want nothing bad to happen to Jesse either. So I don't know.
Well, Jesse was the one that lost the most, wasn't he? I mean,
what?
theory.
Everybody loved died.
What? Well, that's true. Jesse,
But that wasn't all Walter.
Jesse started in that life though. Jesse was in the life before Walter.
He was a petty criminal.
Yeah, but I mean, he was there. He was doing it. He
just
didn't.
He was just a kid who didn't know any other way.
Sure. I don't want to give him too much like leeway. I mean, but yeah, that's how the story is meant to be portrayed. This is kind of the point, right?
Yeah. I think so. I think Walter White is the epitome of how good people fall down bad paths.
Yeah. I mean, he's actually going to talk about one that's more from the 80s that we'll probably recognize, but
I did remember the movie when he said it. So
yeah.
Dad loved horror movies. The scarier, the better. And of course, I like them now, but as a kid, they were too scary for me. When I was 16 years old, however, we finally saw a movie together that did not scare me at all, but it deeply scared my father. So much so that even though he liked the movie, he still refused to ever watch it again. And that was very strange, because it wasn't even a horror movie. But his fear makes sense once you hear why. Let me explain. You see, my dad was both tall and big. When I was a kid, I saw him get violent with other men on a few occasions. And each time, he physically dominated them. It was very one-sided. He could be pretty scary when he wanted to be. I loved my dad very much, but when he was the age I am now, he had a really bad temper, way worse than mine. He was a good man, but his bad temper was one of his main faults. We used to go to the movies together every weekend. Back then, a movie ticket was only about $4. And one weekend, in February of 1993, we saw a movie called Falling Down with Michael Douglas. It was a movie about a divorced and depressed, average, middle-aged man named William Foster, who just finally snapped. The philosopher Carl Jung may have described it as his call to individuation, a drive to live authentically, abandoning the fake persona that you present to the world in favor of who you really are underneath it all. In other words, you live according to your core values without concern for the approval of others. Foster was laid off from his job, sort of thrown away after years of work like a worthless piece of trash. He got out of his car in the middle of LA traffic and just walked away from it. Done. His call to individuation involved just completely ceasing to put up with anyone else's bullshit.
Pardon me, but that's bullshit.
He just sort of stopped caring about civility and started telling people what he really thought, with no censor. Which, as you may imagine, did not go over so well with others, and with each new altercation he got into, by sheer luck, he'd end up with progressively more dangerous weaponry to facilitate his will, starting out with a bat and a knife, and ending up with firearms and eventually even a rocket launcher.
Man, those butterfly knives back in the 80s, you would have thought that we would have seen a lot more of those. They were in the films a lot, weren't they? People doing the...
Yeah, they were, yeah.
Anyway, that was a little nothing thing that I wanted to put in.
Inevitably, he killed people. It was kind of like fantasy fulfillment, the things you think about doing to assholes you encounter but never actually dare to do because you don't want to ruin your life. But what if you think your life is already ruined? What if you have nothing left to lose? What's to stop you?
Yeah. And now you're gonna die wearing that stupid little hat. How does it feel?
I remember at the time that we both liked the movie. So about 6 months later, when we went to Blockbuster to rent a movie, I noticed that Falling Down had become available to rent. When I suggested getting it, my dad adamantly refused, which surprised me because he seemed to like the movie when we saw it in the theater. No, not that one, he said, reminding me of my reaction as a little kid when he picked out a horror movie. Like he was genuinely scared to watch it. And my dad wasn't usually talkative. He didn't volunteer explanations. So I wondered why, and I nagged him about it. Why? Why can't we get it? I want to watch it. Eventually, he answered me, and I never forgot his explanation, even though it was 33 years ago. You know what he told me? He said he was afraid of how much he felt inspired by it. That made sense to me. My dad had the temperament for violence, so he allowed his rational self to preempt his darker side so that he would not be tempted to do the things he saw in that movie, which realistically would just destroy his life, the lives of others, and severely affect my life as his son. So even though I wanted to see the movie again, I quickly let it go. If he had given me any other explanation, I probably would have argued, but I did not argue against that one because I didn't want to lose my dad. So I didn't lose him. He got older and stopped getting into altercations. He calmed down and seemed to be at peace before he finally did die, much later, of cancer. I once heard a sentiment that kind of stuck with me, and it goes like this. You grow up wanting to be the hero. You grow old understanding the villain. You die too powerless to be the hero and too apathetic to be the villain. That describes my dad, and I have a suspicion that it also describes a lot of us. I think it means that we're very idealistic when we're young, so it's easy to imagine being a hero with a strict moral code, saving others. But as you get older and gain more experience with the way the world really operates, others are seen as more of a problem, so you have less of a desire to save them. You become more realistic disillusioned, cynical, and can start to empathize with the villain and their motives. It's a lot more difficult to save a bunch of lives than it is to pick up a gun and take a bunch of lives. And so, when you're old, you have neither the power to save people nor the inspiration to condemn them. Most of us will never be a hero or a villain. Those are lofty concepts, usually only reserved for literature, movies, and games. What most of us will do, however, is root for either the hero or the villain. That's important because what's special about us common folk is that we ultimately hold the keys to the power, and we get to decide who can use those keys. And what I've seen more and more as I've gotten older is a greater love for the villain. What I'm starting to see is an entire society of William Fosters.
Do you guys agree with that?
So I was going to say this, that statement that he made about you want the hero when you're a child, and then you sympathize or empathize or understand the villain, and then you become powerless thing. I don't know if that's fully true. I mean, or if that's an entirely bad thing, and I don't mean that the level that he's going to here with regard to the villain. I think there's nothing wrong with understanding the villain, and like Walter, go back to Walter White, understanding how he got there.
Right.
But we understand the villain to avoid becoming the villain.
Sure.
It's why we study. I went to the Holocaust Museum for the first time, and if you'll pardon my divergence here for a little bit, and I know he gets into talking about Hitler later. So I had a friend that invited me to go to an event done by the General Board of Christian Discipleship in Washington, D.C., which is a part of the United Methodist Church. We own the building that is between the Senate building and the Supreme Court, and across the street from the Capitol building. It is the only non-governmental building on the mall, the Washington Mall. And they held this event every year, and they invited people to come and speak. And this was right before the George W. Bush, the George H.W. Bush, so I'll get it right, the George H.W. Bush Gulf War.
Mm.
Like days and a week or so before he officially decided and did started that. Here was my journey. Day one, I'm in a hospital near Chattanooga at a nursing home, not a nursing home, intensive care unit, with a patient who had been there already a month, be there in the long term, about 4 months total. Her name was Margot. Margot grew up in Germany in the time of the rise of Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Margot was a 9-year-old little girl, and Hitler was coming to her community, or they went to an event where he was at. But as a school, the schools were segregated by gender. Sorry, and so this was an all-girls school, as they all were, because he wanted to keep them separate. And he came by and reviewed the school, and he patted Margot on the head and said, "What a nice little German girl." I was the pastor of a church where I had, she had been from Darmstadt, Germany. She had married a GI and came to the States, and that's how she ended up in Chattanooga. So this was on my mind. In my church, I had 3 different people that had a connection to Darmstadt, Germany. One because there was a U.S. base there at the time, and he had been there later. This was much later. Another who had flown and actually was one that bombed Darmstadt, Germany. And then another who had also been stationed there in the Darmstadt area for a period of time. So these were World War II veterans and folks who served many years later. Go to D.C. and we're at this event while the U.S. is contemplating going to war and what is the right thing to do and all of that. Ted Kennedy was one of the people that came and spoke. And I asked him a question, and his response was pretty good because part of my question was, what can you say to the president to get through to him? And his response was, not very much, because he doesn't listen to me. But he might listen to you all. The other person that spoke was the guy who'd been editor of Sojourners magazine, and suddenly his name has left me. And then Madeline, just 2 last names, who was the woman who was in charge of the Children's Defense Fund. And so No Child Left Behind was a phrase stolen from that organization. So I got all this on my mind, and I go to the Holocaust Museum, and you sit and you look at all of the things that led up to the
Marion
Holocaust.
Wright Edelman.
Thank you. That is the lady. She's a brilliant woman. By the way, one of the things she said that really struck me was she said she was a follower of Dr. King, and that Dr. King read Tolstoy, and Tolstoy read Thoreau. And so I tried to start reading those. It didn't work. But she okay. I don't know if you know this. War and Peace is really long.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, I go to the Holocaust Museum.
Man, how many characters are in that book? Golly.
Yes, that's right. So I go to the Holocaust Museum, and the first thing you're faced with is a little room with a video screen and them talking about the lead up to. Also, there was a movie about Hitler, a miniseries about Hitler. The guy who starred in Stargate, the last of the Stargate series, and also the Full Monty, and played John Lennon in something else, which is interesting, played Hitler, and it was about, all of this was happening at the same time. The Holocaust Museum was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen because it showed how desperate people will grab a hold of something and look for a way to have hope. And whoever is saying the thing that gives them the least bit of hope, they'll grab onto it and accept it and follow it to the ends of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it means other people die, because they're the reason that I don't have I need. Right. It's the Jews. It's the government is having to take care of autistic kids.
Right.
The gypsies are stealing this. All of these things, and it was just a moment in time for me that really has been profound in trying to understand the villain. How did we get there? Right. How did the people accept the villain? And then to recognize that this wasn't that far ago. So when you have shaken my hand, that means that you are 2 people literally away from having Hitler, physical contact with Adolf Hitler. So, and I think that's, I got one person between me and Hitler, physically.
Right. it'll give you a shiver, right?
Yeah.
Hitler touched this girl's head, right?
Right, and now she's somebody I'm caring for in intensive care.
Here's what I find kind of more interesting, and I think there's two characters at play here, not just the villain itself, but it's the people who are interested in the villain, right?
Yes.
And I think
right.
for us, when we did that one, we did the Umberto Eco stuff, the 14 characteristics of fascism. We were trying to decide we're going down this list to say, hey, is this administration fascist, right? And I think we scored it pretty high, right? Like it was like
going 13
down
and a half.
Yeah, 13 and a half or 13 out of 14, or depending on how you scored, obviously. But you and I, we went along and scored it with those guys, and we're like, okay, that's a point for that. Yeah, that's a point for that. Half a point for that, something like that. But we ended up getting like 13 out of 14, 13 and a half out of 14. And I kind of lost my train of thought there. But we
were judging the administration, not
we were judging, but this is more about, I think. Yeah, thank you for getting me back. This is more about like, what are we talking about? Like, what gives fascist power in the first place, right? What makes them drawn to this, this type of a person, right? So I think that's kind of more what, Mr. Dark Matter here is talking about. Adrian, you got anything to put in?
Well, so am I sorry. So when I was listening to Billy, I don't know if this is where you want to go with it, but I've kind of felt that way about like how the Bible has kind of like changed and adapted, and how that need for, like, I don't know if survival is the right word, or adapting, or seeing the good in circumstances also leads you to believe something like how a lot of the Christians or the believers are really, really proud of like being tortured for their faith or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like okay, like that was growing, like when I heard that as a kid, it's like, yeah, you gotta put it all on the line for your faith, and if you die or someone makes, whatever bad comes, as long as you stand up for Jesus and your faith, and that's a good thing. And I never thought about that as kind of like an adaptation to like the fact that you kind of had to back then. Like a lot of the people in the Bible didn't really have any choice. Like if you weren't of the faith of the powers that be, yeah, you were going to get persecuted, and and possibly like die. Like they might kill you. They'd wipe you out. And you come along and you see like this progression of like, we're praying, we love the Lord, and then something terrible happens. And like, wait a minute, I thought we did all the things, like we did all the sacrifices, we did all that, and we still got slaughtered. Oh, that's because God was testing us, or we did something wrong, and God was like, all that kind of like
everything happens for a reason.
That kind of like,
I don't know if we want to get into the problem of evil. That wasn't where I was like going to.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But that whole like, you see, like, so like when he was saying, how do they follow this person? That person's usually in power. Like that person usually has like something that they want or need, just for survival. And so if it's the king or whoever the judge or whoever this person is, you kind of like, you could spend your whole life saying, well, they did this wrong, they did that wrong. And what does that get you? You're still poor. You're still in downtrodden. You're still in poverty. The king's not going to be removed. Like, so you might as well, like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to be on his side. Maybe if I find favor with him, and maybe I talk about the king or the metaphysical being or whoever, you're just that kind of adaptation to like,
sure.
You're really just trying to survive. And how we do it, some of us, if we've got things going our way, so it's a little bit easier for us to like worry about other people or even be able to, in position to care. but a lot of them had nothing, and their adaptation was like persecution's okay, it's good. You'll get to heaven. You'll get all this stuff.
So
Suffering for
that's
Christ.
adapting.
in this current moment, I feel like a little bit of the fight for survival though is concocted. Right? Like, I mean, we've talked at length about the white replacement theory, right? Which to me, that's a concocted fear, right? Now, it might be something that you can stack on top of some other hardships, especially like in rural America, you know, just the poor. Let's just talk about the poor, right? Mm-hmm. Rural America, inner city America, where people are packed together tight, maybe in inner city and maybe not so much in the rural area, but like they just got nothing out there. You know what I mean?
So they both have food deserts.
Yeah, two different types of poverty, but it ends up kind of like the same. You know,
the police are a threat.
The police can be a threat. Yeah. In these
you go to rural America, there's a reason that you don't feel and I don't mean here. I'm a white guy with a white beard and in a Jeep, and I still get very nervous driving through certain parts of the area behind you. There, you know, areas.
Just people with power. People with power can't abuse it, right?
Yeah, you know, the rural folks have very similar odd fears. It's different in, you know, when race is involved, when it's somebody who is black or brown. There's an added element to the fear of police because driving while black is a thing, you know. But in rural America, there's also the driving a poor car. The police will pull that car over way more than they'll pull over a car that is in great shape. They'll and then the consequences are, then you get back into some of the similar things. Well, we've got they end up in jail because they can't afford to pay bail. They can't afford a decent lawyer, so they end up, you know, those things all happen. So there are some similarities with inner city and rural poverty. There are some glaring differences, but there's some very similar. But in the rural America, the language of white supremacy seems to land pretty well, because it's blaming somebody else and not me.
Sure.
I can't be.
It's the excuse to make a poor person feel like they're above somebody else.
Right. It's those immigrants. It's those people that don't look like me. It's their fault. It's those people that live in a way that I don't do.
So people who are struggling. So people who are struggling. Let's take like an example now. So hospitals are closing, right?
Yeah, our clinic here in town is closing.
Yeah. And that's usually a job center for these rural communities. Plus, it's a care center for these rural communities and these, like, rural type hospitals that you'll find in like these small to mid-sized cities or whatever. But like these kind of hospitals are getting shut down right now, right? So, you get these problems, something like that. The warehouse. Or not the warehouse, or the manufacturing plant or whatever, like what was it up Levi's up here years ago, when they shut down, it just decimated that community, right? Not a couple years ago, but many years. What was that, 20, probably 30 years ago, 30, 40? I don't remember. Anyway,
I remember touring that facility when I was in Boy Scouts.
Mom and pop shops like disappearing because of the Walmartization of the United States, right? So like you have these, these forces that put people in like, kind of a perilous place, a desperate place. But yeah, when you get like a Hitler or, in this case, let's be very clear. It's Donald Trump. He's given them somebody to say, this is the fault, right? We can put a bullseye on these people and we can take care of it. Right. But I'm more interested. I want to see if I can keep this going. I feel, part of this is always concocted, right? And I think that what he's going to talk about is how it can be concocted. So let's get back to the video.
So many people feeling used and thrown away, left to contend with a world that doesn't give a shit about them. So why should they give a shit about the world? Everything is becoming more expensive. Food, housing, medicine, transportation, entertainment, etc. Just to live is so expensive now. Relationships are getting harder to find because we're becoming so isolated and antisocial, so people aren't having families. With no house, no wealth, and no family, it's getting to the point where a lot of people are close to having nothing left, and so they have nothing left to lose. What happens next? What happens is that they become vulnerable to the first person who successfully takes advantage of the situation to sell them a solution. And that solution doesn't even need to work. It just needs to make people believe that it will work. And if it can give them an outlet for their anger and vengeance, then that solution will become all the more attractive. If the 2030s look anything like the 1930s, which is entirely possible, then we know what comes next. We know how people react to collapse. What I fear now is that we live in a world without the same foresight and self-awareness my dad had that allowed him to preempt his darker side. As we enter the stage in our lives in which we understand the villain, what I see now is a lack of self-control. People gladly leaning into that darker side rather than having the wisdom my dad did to avoid inspiring it. There's a proclivity for violence boiling just under the surface of our society, and we're choosing the villain. You can see it in our media. You can see it in our politics. In so many cases, we find the villain to be the far more interesting character. When the villain is on the screen, we're more engaged. We're more excited to see prequels and sequels about the villain. We want to read about the villain. We like video games that let us be as bad as we want to be. These days, we're more likely to relate to the villain than to the hero. What does that say about us? This is not judgment. I enjoy the same things you do, but why? Because when the world becomes a harsher place, it becomes more difficult to resist cynicism, more difficult to see the good in others. And if you're not good, then nobody cares if you end up in the path of the villain's wrath. Nobody cares when those who promote cruelty receive cruelty. We elect the worst people imaginable. We elevate people who would be best suited as Bond villains. And when I look at videos of Hitler's speeches with his voice translated into English by AI, I see nothing but praise in the comments section. Look at any one of those speeches and you'll find thousands upon thousands of comments gushing over how great Hitler was. Fake bot accounts? Possibly. Certainly not all of them. But what is not fake is the absence of the contrary. They say that he makes a lot of sense, that his words were so true and perfectly describe our reality today. What's very disconcerting is that there are always a lot of comments from people who say that they changed their mind about him once they were able to actually listen to his speeches. That when they were growing up, they always thought he was just a crazy, angry German guy, and that they felt school lied to them. But now they see the light, and they see that Hitler was right all along. They say that we fought for the wrong side. It deeply disturbs me to watch them be manipulated in my time by a man who manipulated the people of his time. Not that many years ago, if you called Hitler a bad person, you'd be accused of virtue signaling. It would be obvious to everyone. Calling Hitler bad is easy because he obviously was. But now, people will argue with you about it.
Have you, I know that Adrian and I have been in the Facebook kerfluffle a couple of times. Has somebody did that to you where they're like, you're virtue signaling, so they could show the world that you're virtue signaling? You know, like you're just virtue signaling when you're speaking out. Does that ever happen to you?
No, I don't.
It's
No.
happened to me a couple
That
times.
I think because of that's just not a language of the people that I don't think they know what that means.
Okay, for your area. What about you, Adrian?
Same. Like it's rough because when I hear it, I immediately like dismiss it because I'm like, yeah, I know it's coming, but I actually believe this stuff, so I don't know I don't know what you mean. Like it's just weird. Like I
Right.
actually believe this. I don't just believe it to get points from liberals. Like who cares?
Sure. Yeah, and you know, I think you know, there's a place in this to talk about the contrarian. We're going to do that here in a little bit.
It's a
wanted to say
form
one
of
more thing.
fake populism.
One of the things he was talking about made me think about one of the challenges in what empowers the villain is for at least one, let's say a third of our culture right now, doesn't even recognize that there's a villain there.
Yeah.
Then there's the other section of folks who still also don't recognize that he's a villain. I don't really care for the way he talks or the way this or that, but he's not really a villain, is he? So he couldn't be as bad as the squeaky lady or the lady who laughs too much.
Those people are
or,
slicker, man. Every time I feel, not every time, but like a lot of the times when I press people like this, it just turns out that they're just secret right wingers. Like, you know, like
Yeah, but I have some folks that like I talked to a woman before the election, and she was very much, I just don't know if I can vote for that lady. She I don't like her voice, and
Yeah,
they bought that stuff.
yeah.
But this
So
is a
when you
person
press
who,
on that, but when you press on that, Billy, I don't like her
well,
voice.
I'm getting to
right? I
that.
don't like her
I'm getting to. Yeah, I'm getting to that though. She bought that crap, that little bit of crap about,
But why
she
did she
laughs in a
buy it?
weird way, and because it's what she heard all the time. But on the flip side, this is a person who is fully pro-choice, who doesn't like the treatment of immigrants. There's all these other things, but still voted in that way. And it's, I think there's a large there's that independent group in the middle, some of whom are very thoughtful, and I find a way to see this, and I see they're challenging to me. But then there's the ones who are they're in the sense, I vote for the person, I never vote for the policies and all. You're voting the wrong way. But there are people out there who I think are not that are not closeted right wingers who.
These are just people
Because
that
the
are
only way
highly
this happens.
manipulatable. I mean, like
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I think that there are people that are open to whatever, and so they're saying, well, he promised that he could fix the economy on day. Promise, and this other lady's doing this stuff about problem with housing. I got a house. Those are not issues that affect most people. In areas where they own homes and all of it, in places where you're getting rent and your rent keeps going up. Yeah, but if you have a mortgage or you actually already own your home, that doesn't affect you. So I kind of think that there's this middle group that are swayable and can buy into stuff that's not important.
In the case of what's going on right now, what were they swayed by?
Can I jump in?
Yep.
Please.
So I don't know if this will answer because I didn't want to lose it but there was something he was saying, kind of like the gentleman in the video was he was kind of leading us down a path where like almost like it's worse now, or it's different from when his dad recognized these things and where we're at. And one thing I'm very big on, particularly because of my history background, is like what are the conditions that lead to, why it was this way in, say maybe 1970, and then we try that again here in 2025, and why didn't it work? And it's like we don't always understand the conditions. And this is just me kind of just going off on a tangent. A theory of mine I haven't fully fleshed out, so you guys can walk with me and get me there. But I wonder, and Luke, this kind of goes, and Billy, you might like this, but Luke, this kind of goes back to where like back when I first was becoming agnostic, and I really thought the answer was once people realize that a lot of, for lack of, the Bible isn't quote unquote real, or, there's no, there's not a God that's moving around with you. Like the world will be a better place because really what's making all these people bad is like reading this bad theology about where this person got killed and where God hates these people and God's always mad and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, once I dismantle that, this world will be a million times better. And I'm kind of like flipping, and I'm wondering if the belief of a God with power, but also like with love and community, I find people like Billy and the Christians that I'm like the liberal Christians that I'm drawn to, their faith really fuels a lot of the policies and the way they behave, and just like everything I agree with and why I can vibe and I can feel comfortable. I thought was because I grew up in the church. It's like, no, I really like and agree with how they see the world, but they come through their faith, and they keep that. And I'm not convinced that the people who I thought I could convince once God's gone, I think they kind of use that. Like, I think they care about like resources and getting a good job and money and having the women, like, and God's kind of like back in the background and like co-sign whatever they want. And like, or forgive them for whatever they mess up. Like, I don't know that taking away God changes them. And I'm like, shit, maybe we need more people who believe in like the God of, who loves us and wants us to take care of each other and is actually crying with us and sad, not so much the God that wants to smite thousands of people because we didn't believe the right way, right? So I've kind of come full circle. So like, so building on that, it's like, I think back in like time, and I hate to say it this way, but I can't.
How far back in time?
So even like 80s, 90s, I feel like there was an unknown about the world still, even as we, like, when I was a kid, like,
would you say that the internet is like?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's where I was kind of going. Like, I feel like there was a time where I knew China existed. I knew things were going. I knew there was this world around me, but it was exotic. I didn't see it. I read about it, so I didn't know. Now I see, like, the world feels so much smaller to me now, and maybe that's age, but I feel like the internet has taken away kind of like a level of hope where it seemed like we were always building for something. So like even in the 60s, black people and everyone in civil rights, we're building towards something. And then we get to the 90s and it's like, shit, well, we got to build towards like getting these people of color and women and all these other people into these positions of power so that they lift everything up. And then that doesn't happen. And the internet comes along, and like, I know people on the other side of the world kind of like going through the same thing I have, or see things how I have, and like we haven't changed, and they were trying, and we tried to fight this fight. And I'm nervous that a lot of those people, like as you say, like all this stuff is a distraction, but what's really happening is jobs are going away, resources are getting hoarded up by the more the powerful. And I don't know, like, I don't know if there's a God I can pray to kind of get them on. Like, where's the Holy Spirit? Why is the Holy Spirit guiding them? And like, what's next? What's the thing that we can all like really build on as belief in humanity going forward? And I'm a little nervous that we're taking all that away. And so why a lot of these people are like upset because they're losing their jobs. They don't see a future for their kids. They don't like. I don't know where my kids are going to live. What job? Like, what market am I putting them out into? I'm like, Jesus Christ, can you get a job and just be a decent person? That's so much harder, and I'm more worried about it now than I was when I would say in just the year 2000. Really, I feel like we know so much about the world and space and time and humans and existence and who's doing what and like where's the hope? What's the unknown?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if there's an unknown for us to look towards anymore, and I'm worried when we lose that. What's to keep them in line?
So yeah, I mean, I listen. I started a podcast with a pastor to build on common ground. Maybe mainly for me at that moment, the central thought was Matthew 25:35, right? Because hey, we're speaking out against what's going on with immigration. Anyway, I totally get where you're coming from. Is what I'm saying. Is like hey, as an atheist, I'm looking for a place to bond, right? And if it means, hey, look, we can bond on these. I can't buy into the magic, right? I just don't. I don't buy into the supernatural stuff. I don't. It could there maybe I guess. I would say no. There's not anything.
Sorry. Let me back you up. But I'm more talking about them. Like me and you, I feel like we can find hope in each other, and like
right.
Like, what about those Trump supporters that we're talking?
So like,
what is their actual hope?
Hold on. So like, I'm saying like I'm with you. I understand. I'm like, hey, I understand your plight here, right? But like, my question is there a way for like a more enlightened individual, if I hate to say it like that, but we're just since we already already talked about the Enlightenment, is there like a path to talk to folks, right? And for me, it was like, hey, if I used to be religious and kind of the same way you were, but there's still some things that I can like vibe with, right? So like for me, that's kind of where it has to be. And like you're saying, like, what would we do without it? I'm like, I guess that's what you're trying to say. What would we do without religion in some cases? Because these people would just like lose it, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So let me throw this out. And Adrian, if I'm way off the mark, the analogy is going to be way off from where you. There are two franchises that were based on basically the old westerns. One of them is one of the most successful movie franchises in the industry. The other one is one of the most successful television franchises in the history of the industry. One is called Star Wars and one is called Star Trek. So Star Wars is for those that love black hat, white hat. There's good, there's evil. We're going to fight with each other. But look who is the big star of Star Wars. It's Darth Vader, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you even saw the picture in his little video there of him. So
yeah, exactly. People become enamored with Darth Vader. The series that went back showed you the evolution of this little kid who was just a good kid who had this moment where it was his children were being threatened and he became he found more power and the children had to be removed from him. But I know there's one of the better of those three movies was that one. But it was always this idea that good versus evil, black and white, it's all it's monochromatic. There's black and there's white and there's nothing in between. Whereas with Star Trek, there is this idealistic, optimistic view of the future. That is what you were describing in some ways, Adrian. That if we could get to the place where people can have a guide in their life, whatever that is, whether it's God or a set of philosophies or something. It doesn't have to be religion, though they respect religion in the series, depending on what planet they're on. But there's the prime directive that guides them. And
This is so we went real nerdy.
I'm a nerd.
I'm with you. I'm nerdy too, then.
What really gets into me, why I like Star Trek way more than I like Star Wars, is because the black and white good versus evil thing is trite to me. It's too easy. It's all the fairy tales. That's what it is. Here's the good guy. Here's the bad guy, and you know it's obvious. But the reality of the world is sometimes the good guy is the bad in a different situation, and sometimes
Well,
the right choice is not easy.
I just want to say also though, like if we're going to talk about Star Wars by the end of, well, not the last three, but you know what I mean. You
mean the duplicate of the first three?
Yeah, well, it definitely, at least in the seventh movie, I guess I was like, oh god, they really nostalgia.
They remade the first one.
Yeah, I was like, this is a little too much on the nostalgia. So, but anyway, by the end of the episode 6, right?
Yeah.
It's a redemption story about like these people having good still in them, and Darth Vader.
Yeah, still the best of all the movies.
You think the Jedi is?
Yes, I do.
I have a different opinion.
And I think probably instinctually because of what you just said, because it is the redemption story. There is hope.
Sure, but the thing is, it is true though, right? So like we went into the prequels knowing that Darth Vader had some kind of redemption story, but we didn't know like that it was like we had heard we heard about Anakin, I guess when Obi-Wan's talking to Luke or whatever. You've watched Star Wars, Adrian? Are we just talking mumbo jumbo?
No, I've seen Star Trek. I don't know anything about really, other than Kirk and Picard are the two, and there's more of it. But yeah, Star Wars. I'm well, at least the main the first three that came out, when we were kids, and then or even before us, and then the prequels. I watched the last three, but I don't really. They were fine. They were solid, but I didn't.
It's fine. Okay.
But yeah, I definitely know the main six, I should say.
Yeah. So
the last three were entertainment.
Right.
But again, it makes you wonder, like, because he's the villain, he's the bad guy, he's the ultimate big baddie, he's the most powerful, right? I guess, except for the Emperor, and he's the one that looks cool with the mask and but since we knew he was going to have a redemption arc, we could go back and watch him be a good guy for really, I guess, two and a half of those.
Maybe 2.5, yeah. They dropped seeds along the way, but yeah.
Sure, when he's talking about maybe there should be a strong leader that could just force people to be right, that was terrible acting, but yeah. And Ed,
and by the way, that's
like Empire too.
That statement you just made was echoed in the statements that he put up there when people were watching Hitler's speeches.
Yeah,
we need a guy who can do this.
Right, and see, man, that's okay. So Star Wars is highly political, and the symbolism.
Star Trek is too, by the way.
but I mean, like,
Star Trek was intended to be highly political.
Star Wars is like, hey, this empire is the intergalactic Nazis. They're the ones that want the homogenous society. They have clones. Stormtroopers are these white guys.
Stephen Miller and Elon Musk came out against the new Star Trek because it was too woke, and I'm like,
yeah, well, they come out against.
Do you know what Star Trek is? Star Trek has always been woke.
Yeah. It's easier to be woke when you have machines that can create anything out of nothing.
Well, they didn't have those for. I'm in the first season of Next Gen right now, and they haven't used the rest.
Oh, well, cool, I guess. All right, listen, we got to get off this. We got to keep on the video. What are we talking about at this point?
But all of that has to do with the fact that how does the villain be?
Yeah, how do we get to the point where we're cheering for the villain?
About it.
Yeah.
It's a form of fake populism. They relate to the villain because the villain knows how to pretend to relate to them, to the commoner, to we the people. When he could pretend to be one of us, pretend to have our best interests at heart, then we the people will give him the power he needs to be the villain. And that's what happened with Hitler. The Nazis were failures until they gained popularity under the Great Depression. It was then, during that time of hardship, that Hitler's complaints and promises ensnared the people. When he was allowed to take power, he installed loyalists, made everything worse, and destroyed Europe. Now, white nationalists worship Hitler, even though nobody has killed more white people than Hitler did. No one man destroyed Europe to the degree that Hitler did. Yet, bizarrely, it doesn't matter to them that the very thing Hitler warned about is the thing he ended up doing himself. They were just as obsessed with white birth rates back then as they are now. But what did he end up doing? He sent millions of Germans into the meat grinder. And when his time came, the coward took his own life to escape accountability. He refused to do for his people what so many of his people did for him. He refused to fight when the fight landed at his doorstep. And he also refused to surrender and testify on behalf of those who supported him. Not that his reasons were just. He accused others of stabbing him in the back, but ultimately he stabbed his own nation in the back. He could only pretend to be a man of his convictions when he sought power and had power. But you can learn a lot about someone's true nature by how they behave in defeat. He proved what he was in the end and died in disgrace. Yet despite that, his poisonous words live on and inspire new villainy with which we must contend. They ignore what he actually did because that's how manipulative his words always were. The white nationalists won't care how many white people you kill as long as you blame the Jews and the black people and the brown people. It's the most delicious poison. Whatever you do can be forgiven as long as you hurt their perceived enemy, as long as you express the right amount of hatred in the correct direction. Then you can get away with anything in their eyes. You can murder people in the streets, no matter their color, as long as you do so in the name of hurting Jews, black people, brown people, leftists, LGBT people, disabled people, whomever they hate or see as inferior. Hitler now has admirers amongst even groups he would have deported or killed.
So I can kill a Nazi, yeah, bitch, I'm the villain. Jews mad! Jews mad!
You think Hitler was very
So real quickly, I want to talk about before we see Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes here. Let's pull back to these dudes. Which, by the way, Nick Fuentes, that's him right here, right? These are podcasters, right? These are Twitch people. These are people that are influencing today's young men, right? Now, this is a very controversial thing. The song, Billy, I'm sure you don't know much about Kanye West's catalog, right?
Yeah, it's not my style.
But we're talking about this is a Hall of Fame music guy, right?
Right. Yeah.
At one point, like, he was as big as any artist in history, almost, I would say. And man, he really took a path by, writing and performing and putting out the song Heil Hitler, right?
Did not know about that one.
Yeah. So this is it's a good thing you don't have a youth group now, Billy. So this is Sneeko. This is Nick Fuentes. This dude's named Myron from the Fresh and Fit podcast. This guy is named.
The cursor went away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was doing it on the wrong screen. Sneeko, Nick Fuentes, Myron from Fresh and Fit. This guy's named Clavicular. These are their they have real names. I'm not 100% sure this dude is. That might be Tristan Tate. I know that Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate were on this like particular thing. But anyway, the scandal here.
Well, he's poorly dressed.
The scandal here is, I mean, these are enormously large Twitch streamers, and like, this is what your kids is watching, man. Right? That's why we decided when we're going to do this, like, hey, let's get on Twitch and see if we can, like, you know, at least be a space in that area. Even if we don't get hardly anybody, we're a space, and maybe they'll just click on it, and maybe they'll see us instead of these folks, right? Like, that was one of the reasons why we started this. Because I started worrying about these fuckers right here. Right? And it was one of the things, like, I was like, hey, let's see if we can create a youth group to counter these kind of, you know, this filth, right? But yeah, he's talking about, you know, people of, dark matter here. He's talking about, you know, people that are even throwing their own, like, heritage under the bus in a lot of ways, right? Just to be, you know, what is the term white proximity, right? Even to this point right here, right? Like, they want to be edgy, they want to be cool, and then also it puts them in this, you know, kind of white proximity place. It is that Tate, bro. That's the Tristan Tate guy, Ed. Yeah. Anyway, so they went to a club and they started playing this in the club. They got all banned from every club in Miami. Like, you know, but this is the edgelord thing that's going on right now. So I wanted to stop and just say, hey, this is potentially what your kids, your young men are, you know, watching, if you have some young men, because this is the red pill content creators, right?
Juice man!
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of the...
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Because you're a little bit more than a far-right Republican. Hey, what can I say? I think you can say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am.
Hitler seems to take root in those whose thinking is shaped by...
Let me just stop there, too, with this guy right here that said, I'm a fascist. Did we?
Fascist.
We did that, right? We did that Jubilee where we watched the thing.
You and I did.
Yeah, yeah, we did do that.
And that guy he was losing people in the crowd pretty quickly, actually.
No, that's the problem. He wasn't losing people in that crowd.
He lost some.
I mean, sure. There's.
You're right, though. He didn't lose that.
No, they let him go down the fascist thing. So, like, you know, I honestly, that dude's honest, right? You know, I mean,
but then let's go back to what he was saying earlier.
I'm saying he's like, I wish that some of these folks that I get into an argument with, you know, Tim Pool, we're going to talk about him a little bit in this video, but like Tim Pool, you know, he said, I am the boot, right?
Yeah.
Recently.
I think this kid is what he talks about later when the desire to be edgy. That's how I felt about the kid.
Yeah. I mean,
I ain't gonna lie. I got like the vibes when I was like 13 and I was like, I just want to be like different and haha and shock everybody. And that's cool. Like, I'm not saying they don't believe any of it, but I just felt so performative.
Well, they don't understand it.
But you know, this is, you know, feeling cool because you're contrarian, you're on the edge, you're, you know,
right.
And listen, this kind of stuff, this is kind of what his whole premise is in the video, is that, you know, we're kind of racing to the bottom, you know, in terms of like what kind of content is out there and what people are saying and chasing the villain, right? Like,
I also wonder like how much our education system, in the sense that a lot of these guys were C&D students and were told, oh, your writing's not good enough. You're not making sense. You couldn't figure this out. Like, so they come around feeling like they've been, through their grades told they're not smart. And then they get out into the world and there's no like professor or someone to like grade their papers, and they can just, do their own research. And then they find this home where it's like, wow, you're really smart. Like, what I am?
Right.
But I'm just saying a bunch of racist bullshit. Oh, wait. Oh, I am smart. Oh, I just got to go different. I got to see all of the professors and everybody else in school and all those liberal gobbledygook they taught us in school. They were the wrong ones. That's why I got C's and D's, not because I was the problem.
Yeah.
Now they gotta feel validated because they get a few things right. Don't get me wrong. Like, every now and then you learn a little something, and maybe history gets a little bit more complex, but for the most part, it's what we were taught was right, and so they just want to be against all of it. It's just
It goes back
edgy.
to that.
But that's
It
edgy
goes
and
back
cool
to
to a
that
13.
black and white thing.
Yeah. Right.
But it goes back to that black and white thing. I want things
Mhm.
to be black and white and easy.
Mhm.
There's a guy that we were talking about Christian nationalism in something we did back in the summer, and my conference, Holston Conference, voted to make a statement that we condemn Christian nationalism, and so we were presenting that to the congregation, and we had a lunch afterwards, and to give people a chance to ask questions, and ask Carla, because she was the one that presented it, my wife. And basically what he said was, if you can't tell me in 3 seconds, or I don't want to have to think about it, why is Christian nationalism bad? I like the flag up there. I like that, and I'm going to fight like hell to keep it, even though I don't give a crap about why you think it shouldn't be. And I don't want to be taught.
No.
I've been told that more than once by people. I don't want to be taught.
Don't want to be
I
taught. They want to be told.
Feel good.
Right.
I want to feel good when I don't want you to teach me anything. I don't want to grow.
Right.
And one person that was telling me that, by the way, is a kindergarten teacher. And I'm like, did you go to school so you could just babysit children for a while? Or did you go to school so you could teach? My calling as a pastor was never to just make you feel good for a while. Just out of curiosity, Adrian, did your wife preach this week?
She didn't. She preached a week ago.
Did the person that did preach from Micah this week?
I didn't go. I took a day off. My bad.
Well, the choices in the lectionary were.
What kind of agnostic are you? You're supposed to be at church. What?
I know.
The choices in the lectionary were the Beatitudes from Matthew, which are kind of watered down, and Micah 6, 1-8, which ends with, what does the Lord require but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly.
Yep.
And that is a guiding force for me.
Sounds like a good new shirt for me.
It's a great one. It's one of the best Old Testament texts there is, as far as I'm concerned. But it's, if you say that, we don't talk about justice. Glenn Beck spent a great deal of capital telling his folks that they should read their church's websites and their denomination read if they use the word justice. If they talk about social justice. If they do, need to leave.
Yep.
You need to leave. That. Yeah. He's condemning churches for being socially justice minded.
And it's crazy how when he did that, I was like, oh man, like this guy doesn't get it at all. And now it seems mild.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. We got that the toxic
Luke,
empathy people.
You also said something that was profound when you said, I'm looking for somewhere to, I don't know if you said belong. I think what you said was be a part of something, connect.
You mean like be able as an atheist to connect to other people that are going to be religious no matter what. Is that what you meant when I said that earlier?
No, that wasn't what you said. You said I'm always looking for a place to. I think you were talking about, having a bonding.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Like, that's why, we started the podcast, and, in the first place was, obviously, we talked about those dudes, and I wanted to be a place that was at least stood opposite, even though it's not never going to reach their level of success. But
what I want to say about that is that's why anybody goes to a church.
But
that's
also
why anybody goes to.
For me, though, is personally, it was more to like just be able to reach out and say, hey, we have some common stuff here, right? Like, that's where we should build out from that,
Yeah.
Matthew 25:35. I don't care if it's played out. We can go Micah if you want, whatever.
Well, I hear the Matthew 25 mentioned a lot, especially among folks that have deconstructed or folks that are frustrated with the church.
Well, I mean, that's where we want to still, like, people like me, possibly people like Adrian, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for him. He can speak for his own self. But that's where, like, people like me want to say, hey, look. I don't believe a guy lived in a whale. I don't believe that heaven exists. I don't believe that hell exists. I don't believe in any supernatural things at all. I think there's a natural explanation for everything. Now, this is that, so you might get people that say, well, that's a belief too, right? But I mean, okay, man, right? But what I'm more interested in is not what we have, where we have disagreements. It's more about like, hey, Jesus is your guy, right? Like, Christian, if I'm talking to a Christian, Jesus is your guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if Jesus is your guy, why is he your guy? And if it's not the Matthew 25 stuff, I don't know what it is, right? Those we talked about this before. Those WWJD bracelets, I always hated them because it was like you could put on a bracelet and not really like know what it is supposed to be.
Yeah, and what I was getting at is exactly what
that is the common ground, right? What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Even for an atheist who looks at it as a character in a book and says, hey, this is a character in a book who has some good ideas and, things like that. Maybe you and I can build out from that, right?
Right. And a number of, there's some studies that have shown that there's people that have left the faith, and that, that's the deconstructors in that sense. But there's also people who have left the church, and both have the same thing. They would both agree with you that the church is supposed to look like what Matthew 25 is calling us to. And it doesn't. And if it doesn't do that, then what's the...
Right.
So if I'm a Christian, I can't be a part of an organization that ignores that. And if I'm an atheist and I see that and I go, that's what the church is supposed to look like, how am I supposed to respect you if you can't even live into the basic thing?
Right.
And hey, I can agree with those things. The hungry, take care of the people that are struggling the most. That, like you say, that's the common ground.
What do we talk about? So I feel like where we discuss things, and where I get frustrated about all of this is like, but what about those Christians who are clearly in it? Because Jesus saves, and that's it. Jesus has saved me, died on the cross for me and my blood, and washed me in the blood, and so now I'm free to like pretty much believe whatever I actually want to believe. Like, I don't, as far as politically and ideologically, like, I don't, whether I believe in that Matthew, whatever, or Micah or any of that. At the end of the day, Jesus died on the cross for my sins. That's it. I'm going to pray to God. Maybe God will things in my life, but if he doesn't, hey, I still got that Jesus blood on me. So, and that's
right.
it.
And
that's all Jesus is for them. Right. I'm going to heaven. That's all Jesus is for them. It has nothing to do with how they behave here, and that's what worries me now more than ever.
I don't worry about those people if that's all it is, right? I'm more worried about those people that will say that and then they have some kind of self-righteousness about it, right? Like maybe they should be in charge too, right? Like, because to me, like whatever your religion is, I could probably give two shits. It's the minute that you start saying, well, you should be like my religion. And in fact, not only should you be like my religion, everybody, plus you, should be like my religion, and we should make laws that make you respect my religion. You know, and you know,
or no, they don't. You don't have to respect it. You just have to be obedient.
yeah, just
Right.
some,
Just do what it says.
some kind of obedience. Yeah, but
Because that's all it is. It's obedience. It's
so
not.
right.
So
We
yeah,
want
like
you to
I, you
obey
know,
what we tell you.
dealing with those people, Adrian, like the people that are just like, I'm just here to get into heaven. You know, like, all right, man. You know.
Yeah, but they vote and empower this guy. You know, so it's
Well,
like
okay. Now,
we
hold
don't
on.
avoid them.
Hold on
Go
now.
ahead.
So if they voted to empower like this guy, right? Then that's a conversation to have with them, right? That's where we can say, hey, what about this Matthew 25 stuff, right? But a lot of those people, man, they don't even vote. You know, they just.
I
these
don't know if
people-
that's true or not.
Yeah,
I think they're
I don't-
voting.
There's a lot of people who don't
And-
vote. Y'all.
In my church, the ones that are like that, they're the ones. They are always
They're
voting.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
He galvanized that group, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's
And they vote because they think he's Christian.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like,
All right, let's
he's
continue
not.
on.
He's never claimed it.
Since we're talking about Trump, we're eventually going to get there with this guy too. So let's keep going the video.
Memes, sort of easy to understand quips that often promote stereotypes. They practically have meme-based personalities at this point. They allow others to do all their thinking for them.
Just what we're
Allow
talking
me to
about.
read you a passage from Mein Kampf. Quote, "The receptive powers of the masses are very restricted, and their understanding is feeble. Such being the case, all effective propaganda must be confined to a few bare essentials, and those must be expressed in stereotyped formulas. These slogans should be persistently repeated until the very last individual has come to grasp the idea that has been put forth." Long before Richard Dawkins coined the term meme, Hitler already understood the concept and their usefulness as tools of manipulation. And he didn't mince words about it. He literally called your understanding feeble. That's what he really thought of you. One of the main things that gave rise to this love of the villain, which includes Hitler's renewed popularity, is shallow contrarianism combined with crippling cynicism. I accidentally benefited from that when I started my YouTube channel for no other reason than the timing of it, the year 2008, the beginning of the Great Recession. I was always an atheist, passionate in my feelings about religion. My experience in life until YouTube was as the cynical contrarian, the minority, the outsider. When I found YouTube, however, suddenly I wasn't alone. I never expected any sort of popularity because I was expecting the same resistance I received in the offline world, a world in which being religious was the obvious and the only way to be. That is not what I found here. My channel experienced rapid, unexpected growth because I looked like a cynical contrarian. And though that may have been fashionable, I was always quite sincere. But some people,
Like you said,
were
actually
here
believe it.
arguing against religion because that is what was considered edgy and cool back then. That's not why I did it, but very temporarily, I was aligned with what was considered edgy and cool and experienced popularity because of that. But what is considered edgy and cool always shifts. That's its nature. What's cool today becomes dorky tomorrow. What's edgy today becomes cringe tomorrow. People who are slaves to that cycle, by definition, can't have any principles other than the temporary ones decided by others. People who weren't a part of that early online atheist movement for
We could say, you know, the people that are just now saying, "Oh, yeah, I don't really care about the Epstein files anymore," right? Is that?
sincere reasons,
Go ahead, go ahead, Adrian.
I guess more what I'm seeing, and I should have seen this coming, but I guess I thought they'd ignore it. Honestly, but more, it's just basically like, go find anyone in there who looks like a Democrat and only talk about them. I've seen, and maybe it's my algorithm and Zuckerberg and all them trying to get me mad, but it's just like, person to person, this Democrat donor was in here and blah, 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 blah. And like, you look and like, nothing about Trump. Like, they're just not talking about him and just going straight to anybody they think is a Democrat. And it's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like what you got to do.
Right.
early online atheist movement, for sincere reasons, saw it as a fad that was falling out of fashion. So they moved on. They based their beliefs on not wanting to be cringe, and atheism became cringe because it stopped being the brave, contrarian position. They wanted to find the next forbidden thing, the next thing they weren't allowed to say, the next thing that caused shock and outrage, the next thing that upset people. They weren't sincere, they just wanted to be rebels. The cause didn't really matter to them, as long as it was taboo. The outrage was their drug of choice, and they became addicted. The way this manifests today is people trying to outdo each other in a race to the bottom. It's fundamentally childlike resistance for the sake of resistance. They enjoy using the most bigoted slurs imaginable, that up until very recently were rarely uttered, except for perhaps in the most graphic and disturbing dark corners of the internet. Now you see those slurs everywhere, sometimes even uttered by our politicians and other popular figures. Anytime someone tries to be positive or fight for something that's good, they are accused of virtue signaling by those who now favor vice signaling. These are children in adult bodies, and society told them no for the briefest of moments. So now they're doing the perfect opposite, because that's how children rebel. There's no real principle behind it other than perception. That's what matters most to them, because this was always about what is fashionable. This was always about the current fad. And when those people took power, it became what I call an influencer-tocracy. You can see this in how the government runs its social media now, how it leverages influencers, and how it tries to gain control of the narrative as quickly as possible, even if it means lying about things that were captured on video from 3 or 4 different angles. Make the lie big and repeat it often. That concept was described by Hitler himself in Mein Kampf. Now, bizarrely, the contrarians and the rebels are the power. No longer do they fight the machine, they are the machine. Like all those who have hatred, they became the thing they hate. This is what a senior FBI executive said about what happened behind the scenes right after Charlie Kirk was murdered. He said, quote, "Whenever there's a critical incident, one of the first things that happens is a conference call with everybody, all the executives. Most of the field offices dial in. The director rarely speaks because someone with situational awareness is leading the call. They'll say, here's what happened, here's what we know, here's what we need. But we get on, and it's just Cash berating the special agent in charge in Salt Lake. He's super emotional, and then it turns surreal. Cash and Bongino start talking about their Twitter strategy, and Cash is like, I'm gonna tweet this. Salt Lake, you tweet that. Dan, you come in with this. Then I'll come back with this. They're literally scripting out their social media, not talking about how we're going to respond or resources or the situation. He's screaming that he wants to put stuff out, but it's not even vetted yet. It's not even accurate. When I was an agent, I did hundreds of these cases. The initial information that comes in is always wrong. There's too much coming in, and it takes time to vet And it was obvious that Cash can't understand that and doesn't want to understand that. Everyone on the call is like, this guy is completely out of control. On another call, he said, when a crisis happens, the only thing you need to do is call me. The most important thing in any crisis is controlling the narrative. I was like, no, we actually have to do some work here. We're going to have to investigate to solve this.
You fucking.
The alleged killer of...
I think that's Homelander, which is the from the...
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and he's...
It is, yeah.
I think the irony in that scene, I guess, I haven't seen the show, is that, you know, he's got all these powers, but yet he's like on his phone. You know, like worried about what the social media stuff is. Hey, Adrian,
Well,
did you leave us by any chance? Are you still?
No, I'm here. No, I'm here. I had to move check my phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
But so I had to move it. So I'm gonna come back in and let's see how it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
yeah.
you are.
I messed your thing up.
Yeah, it's fine, dude. Whatever, man.
Homelander experienced a situation where he was kind of being found out.
Yeah.
Before that, he had been able to control the narrative. You know, Captain America, he was the good guy, and suddenly his world is starting to fall apart because people are capturing him on video, supporting essentially a Nazi. And,
Sure. So Cash Patel.
and so
right, like
yeah, and he's having to face that, and then they move. When they moved into after that, they moved into the next season. I kind of got tired of watching it because it just got so dark. And a lot of people did because it got so dark. But the you know you never liked the. You kind of could see through his egotism and his arrogance, but then all of a sudden it was out in the open, and he's upset because he's lost his collateral, his political, yeah.
Right, but so then again, but we're talking about controlling the narrative, you know, and Cash Patel and Dan Bongino are out there, you know, right after Charlie Kirk gets murdered, and instead of doing real FBI work, they're talking about like, what are we going to do? What's our social media strategy? And it's just like, what kind of upside down are we living in? You know,
hearing that, I wish it shocked me. It bothered me when I heard that, and then I went, oh no, that seems right on, you know.
Yeah. Ditto. I was like, that sounds like them. I don't like it, but I mean, I'm not. That's where we're at. Yeah.
That's about all I would expect out of them.
Yeah. There you go.
Charlie
and
Kirk
Christy Nome
got.
Billy, you had something to add?
I said Christy Nome and Bovino were the same.
Yeah.
It's all about
sure.
us controlling the narrative.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about the, you know, Renee Good and Alex Preddy situation, you know, I mean, yeah, you know, he just said it in his video. He's like, we have 3 or 4 different angles of this stuff, dudes. You know, and you think you can just put it out there and that's what sticks? Like, they really are playing it like the American people are just stupid.
And it kind of worked on the first one. Because when they just said, oh, no, we're not going to, there's nothing to charge here. That's BS. There was something to charge there.
Nobody's been charged.
In either one, yeah.
And from what I understand, Jonathan Ross, now I don't know what's happening with the other 2 guys. I don't have their names in my head right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because it just released the other day, and but he's a millionaire now. His GoFundMe is full of money, and he's not even, you know, you'd assume for these GoFundMe kind of situations, it would at least be like
GoFundMe might stop it.
Well, no, GoFundMe. Well, I would love to. That would be great, but you know, if he's going to prepare for court costs, maybe he should be charged first before he's getting millions of dollars. You know, I mean, gosh, this guy, you know, but it's like that racist lady. Y'all saw that story? The racist lady.
She said the N-word about the kid, and she got a bunch of money. Yeah,
got a bunch of money for it. Like, what are we doing?
Well, in Jonathan Ross's defense, you know, ICE isn't going to get any actual bonuses or insurance or anything. I don't know if you saw that. They're all complaining like, "Oh, Trump promised us all this, and we still haven't gotten any of that money." And it's like, oh, well,
listen,
just go talk to Ross. He got a bunch.
ICE is going to collapse on its own. I don't know when.
Right.
But like, you can't have this kind of direction. You can't have this kind of national hate, because I mean, people hate them. It's you know, I mean, like, look, there's 30% of the people that are going to put them on a pedestal no matter what.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, the
call to defund ICE has not been, it's not new.
No.
When I was in Chattanooga, there was a raid, and, you know, all it did was create fear and in the Hispanic community. And I remember we had an event to help people understand their rights, and the guy that came to speak for us was the guy who wrote the book on immigration law, and it's a really big book. And then an ACLU person came, and those two basically, they said the problem is there's not a lot we can do to help, but you have to know your rights about what you have to show and what you don't have to show.
Sure.
But the other thing is that this whole idea that they keep calling them enforcement, and there's a difference between the cop on the street, and they say, well, if they would just help. Well, they want the local police to support ICE because it creates more fear and more division among folks. What you had in Chattanooga back then was the gangs were attacking the Hispanic homes because they knew the Hispanic people wouldn't call the police, because they believed if the police came, they would arrest them for immigration violation.
Right. So, and clearly there's a group of people that you can go after and a group of people you shouldn't go after, and we're treating them all as the same. But what I was saying is that ICE is imploding. Currently, I believe ICE is imploding. Like, I think that in the ranks themselves, you know, of course, now listen, these dudes are getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we can't pay our teachers, but we can pay them.
Right. So I think, you know, this administration clearly knew that this is going to be some controversial work, because otherwise you know, I mean, gosh, I mean, they're getting paid six figures plus a 50, as Adrian said. I mean, he mentioned the bonus. Now, whether they get that bonus, those bonuses are based on whether they, you know, detain a certain amount of people. There's quotas and stuff. You think it's a sales job, right? And if the people, man, Minneapolis is going like hell for ICE. If they can't do Minneapolis, they're not going to be able to do any. You going to do LA? Are you kidding me? You going to do Chicago? Chicago already said something.
Right.
You know, you think Minneapolis? You having this much trouble in Minneapolis? Wait till you get to Chicago. You know, like.
But Portland, Maine's a target.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're looking for easy targets because they want to intimidate, right? But Minneapolis, what they didn't realize is that this looks like a blue city. They want to get revenge. It's not going to be that bad. But man, listen, the people in Minneapolis out there protesting in -10.
Right.
Yo.
I heard a lady from Vermont said that she's really connecting with the folks from Portland, Maine, and the folks from Minneapolis. We know this. There's no bad weather. There's just bad clothing choice.
Well, I mean, is that true, Hill, in Chicago when the wind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that, but hey, maybe both together. Maybe there's bad weather and bad choices. I guess.
Adrian, I met a guy in Chicago at Second City. We were sitting there. His daughter was on stage, and she was one of the performers in the act. and we were chatting during the breaks, and he said he had moved from South Dakota to Chicago so he could be there to support his daughter. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I said, so I'm assuming the weather in South Dakota is. So no, it's a lot in Chicago.
Mm.
When if you think about South Dakota is wide open too, wind and all that too.
Right. I feel like that would be worse. But hey,
He said the wind in Chicago was so
the
bad
wind.
coming off the lake.
Right. And yeah, in the building. I don't know how close he was to downtown, but yeah, like it's rough.
All right,
You
let's
have
move
been
on.
in Second City, right?
Let's keep this party going for a little bit. We got a little bit more time left.
Away, and the FBI did not catch him. He turned himself in.
Talking about Tyler Robinson.
After the suspect was taken into custody, Kash Patel immediately started compromising their ability to successfully prosecute him by abandoning standard necessary law enforcement impartiality and proudly displaying his bias, showing that he can't really be trusted on that case, which the alleged killer's lawyers will absolutely use in his defense. Now, I would say that the narrative was more important to him than potentially compromising their ability to convict Kirk's alleged murderer. But it could also be explained by sheer ignorance, as Kash was chosen not because he's competent, but because he's loyal. Either way, you see how the narrative is paramount in this influencertocracy that's running our government right now, from the leaders of the Department of Homeland Security to the Department of War to the FBI and to the president himself. The truth matters to none of them. What matters to them far more than the truth is influence. So if the truth needs to be sacrificed on the altar of influence, then that is exactly what they will do. And they will not hesitate, no matter how brazen the lie. The frantic attempt to control the narrative recently happened yet again. On January 19th, I published a video titled At War with Ourselves, and it talked about the killing of Renee Good. In the thumbnail, I wrote, "This will happen again and again." And in the video, I talked about how it will happen again and again. And when the highest echelons of the government immediately declare that you have immunity after you kill someone, before there's even an investigation, it sends a message. And that message was received loud and clear because it only took 5 days before it happened again, just like I said it would. A genuinely good person named Alex Preddy, a man with no criminal record, an ICU nurse for veterans, and cancer researcher, was 2 miles away from his home, where he started to film ICE agents from across the street
right?
with
Right.
about 10 other people, all perfectly legal. ICE agents went out of their way to cross the street to accost the people filming, and the ICE agents immediately got physically violent for no reason other than to bully people. And the only thing Alex Preddy did was try to help people. A woman was sprayed in the face and very violently pushed to the ground for no reason by an absolutely out of control, violent, belligerent ICE agent. Alex Preddy stepped between them and tried to help the woman to her feet. His last words were, "Are you okay?" He was relentlessly sprayed with chemicals. He turned his back to the agent and was sprayed even more. A half dozen agents very violently attacked him. He did not resist their beating. He did not punch. He did not kick. He did not bite or spit or anything. What he did do was curl into the fetal position on the frozen ground as a half dozen agents of the federal government beat him and repeatedly bashed him in the face with a can of pepper spray. It reminded me of the Rodney King beating. During this beating, his shirt lifted up, revealing a holstered and legally carried pistol registered to him. An agent took his firearm out of the holster and began to walk away with it. After he took the pistol, another agent fired the first shot into Alex's back, and then they fired a dozen more times, ensuring his death. The Lincoln Project described it thusly: the worst of us are killing the best of us. Immediately after his murder, the federal government, including Trump and all the loyalists he installed into positions of law enforcement, told brazen lies about what was captured on video from at least 3 different angles. They called him a terrorist. They said he was there to massacre ICE agents. They said he violently attacked them. None of that is true. None of it. And if no legal action is taken against any of those agents, then it will continue to be open season on all Americans. It doesn't matter if you're at a protest or not. It was the ICE agents who went out of their way to attack people who were not interfering with them. They've already said they can enter your home without a warrant. If they kill you or violate your rights, it doesn't matter what you stand for or what you did. They will find a way to justify it after the fact. Even if it means lying about something that's on video, that's our new reality. Make the lie big and repeat it often. And just imagine how much easier it gets for them if it's not caught on video. You won't stand a chance. That goes for all of us, no matter your politics. We are now at the point where they can claim you're resisting if you are simply violently attacked by law enforcement. It doesn't matter if you go totally limp or curl into a little ball. They will still say you're resisting. In an interview on January 26th, the Minneapolis police chief, Brian O'Hara, said, quote, "The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we did not shoot anyone." ICE shows up and they kill 2 people in Minneapolis within 5 days. That's not law and order. That's what happens when you remove law and order from the people assigned to uphold it. A civil rights attorney was arrested for protesting at a church. She was actually invited into the church, but when she spoke up and said things the congregation did not want to hear, like pointing out their hypocrisy for not heeding the teachings of Jesus.
Kind of what we're talking about. Plus, also, if I'm correct, isn't the pastor of that church like an ICE field director? Something
That's
like
correct,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
She was arrested. It was a non-violent protest. She said her piece and then left. The government referred to it not only as an attack, an invasion, an assault, and an insurrection, but also as a riot, all of which is blatantly false, as the whole thing was recorded on video. You can watch it for yourself. But that didn't stop them from lying about it. When she showed strength in the face of tyranny, the White House digitally altered her face to make it look like she was crying when she was arrested.
That's crazy town, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be the I'm devil's advocate is the opposite of. I kind of feel that they treated her badly, no question about that, and I don't think this rises to the level of crime. I do think that first off, I saw an interview with her on CNN, so it was a somewhat friendly group of the person interviewing her was kind of on her side. And I felt like he made the statement that she was invited into the church. I think she's playing that up a little bit. church.
Billy, you
I
cut
don't
out
think
there. You said you'd said that she's playing up that she was invited into the church.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't. I wonder if, based on what I saw her say in the interview, if being invited into the church was just like if you show up at the front doors of a church, they're not going to say, "Oh no, you can't come in."
Right.
I didn't get the impression like the pastor invited her, or it wasn't like a formal invitation.
Do you
And
think
that makes it sound like some formal
I mean,
invitation?
you guys are the historians and the pastor here. So, like, was Jesus invited in when he started flipping tables?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, that was a public area.
Public
yeah,
area,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my point is not that what she said was wrong or anything. I do think though, and I don't think there was a crime committed, but I do think that
Well, even furthermore,
there's
they arrested Don Lemon from this, which he was just
that's
reporting
right.
on it.
And there is a place to protest and there's a place not to protest, and I think I just wish there was another way for them to protest.
Man, I don't care.
Because
I'm gonna be very real, Billy. I don't care.
I know
glad
you
they did
do,
it, and whatever.
and it makes perfect sense. But for me, as a pastor of a church, I don't know. I just can't see myself going into someone else's church and
if it was,
interrupting what is going on.
okay, so but the circumstances again are people in your community are being snatched up, right? And the person leading the way on this is the pastor of that church. So in your situation, this would be people are snatching up people in your area of town. And the person leading it is a member of another, is the pastor of another church. What would you do? What would be your way to protest him?
Well, first off, I am a pastor in this community.
Mm-hmm.
She's a pastor. She is clergy. I don't know about being pastorated parts specific. Coming in from another community. I just feel like this one has an ick feel to me on the protesting choice.
You feel like this is a bridge too far?
To some degree, yes.
Yeah, I'm probably.
You're probably what?
No, I didn't. I thought you were done. Go ahead. Finish your point. Finish your thought.
No, say it.
Oh no, I was gonna say I'm kind of in between both of you, or maybe I'm closer to Luke, but being a pastor's spouse and stuff, I understand what you're saying, because like that same logic.
You wouldn't want that happening a lot, yeah. Right.
It's like I don't want somebody who comes in like our church is what we call open and affirming, basically welcoming the LGBTQI plus persons. I don't know that I would be comfortable with someone who's against that coming in and saying you're blaspheming against God and blah blah. Like, like get out of here. Like the same thing. It's like I come in. You can come in.
I can see it from that point.
Disrupt our service.
Again, we talked earlier about people being frustrated with what the church is and what it is saying and why people are, becoming atheist and agnostic and look, there's very much a real situation. It happened here in Knoxville where the Unitarian church got shot up.
Yeah, I have a friend that was in
I
that.
guess that's the front.
I have a friend who was there, and it's a terrible, horrible, awful thing.
So I can understand. I can understand the sentiment, but I'm speaking in terms of like.
So let me say this. I do think there's a difference that she is a clergy person and also a Christian. I think there is a level of respect that we should show one another, even when we disagree, to allow that 1 hour.
I agree with you in some ways, but I'm just like, I don't know, man. This is good trouble.
Yeah, this is where I would now. So while I understand what you're saying, Billy, I guess where I would lean more with Luke is like I'm cool with it, but also like I would be prepared for the consequences of that. Like I know if I feel passionate enough to interrupt this church service, and kind of like, even though I'm not, like you said, I'm not really, I'm invited in if I want to sit down and watch, but I'm probably not invited in if they know I'm going to come in screaming, right? So if I use that kind of pretense, like, oh, I've been invited, yeah, thanks, and I just get up and start yelling, I'm not saying I should go to jail or anybody should go to jail, but I do understand like maybe there's a misdemeanor. Like you can't just do it and then expect because you quote unquote on the right side, now you can walk away scot free. I'm not, and then jail's not where I wouldn't go to jail, but like I could see a fine, something like that, or just a court date, like come to the court, talk to your, and maybe if one day they're like you can pay a fine or community, hey, something, but definitely not arresting. But I do think when you do those kind of direct actions, something like that, like I'm all for it, but also understand the consequences, and they're not wrong to enforce some level of those within reason, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. That's why I'm more in the middle of you guys.
I think when I talk about the ick factor, I think a part of it is there's a sense of, I guess I hope that I have the integrity and the ethics to be honest. And there was a bit of dishonesty in the way they went about to claim that we were invited in when I haven't heard anybody else say anything other than that, except that they were invited in has this feel to me when she said it in a conversation with a reporter, with an anchor. It sounded like she was saying, well, we went to church that day. We were welcome to church. Of course you were. They didn't know that you were there for that purpose. Maybe if they saw Don Lemon, they might go, oh, something's up. That might be. But for me, there's a bit of dishonesty. And I felt like, I don't really think there's a law, bro. I disagree with that statement that they said there's being broken. But just purely from the standpoint of, as a Christian who is fully in support of what they were trying to say, I feel like doing it in that way had a bit of dishonesty and lack of integrity. When you start to sound like the people, it's not like saying Chrissy Nome said domestic terrorist. It's not that, but it is the seed of that.
I'm like, look, man, this is me. I get what y'all are saying, but they're shooting people in the street in their communities, and so Ed's over here saying those people were unhinged. Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
I think the people that were more unhinged were definitely people shooting people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't agree with.
If
I don't agree.
I don't buy into this whole thing is what happens if you don't pay a fine. Eventually, the rule of law ends at the point of a gun. No, that's not necessarily.
That's bullshit.
That's not necessarily true. Moving on. Let's
ask anybody who's been abused.
We could get into the two tiers of the justice system where like some people are like raping kids and some people are like not paying a fine. So I mean I guess we could talk about that, but what I prefer to do at this point is move on with the video. We've got about 10 minutes left in it. I would like to kind of watch as much as I can without chirping.
You want us to shut up
for a little bit so we can get through the video for one freaking show, get through the video, and then we'll have our closing comments. Is that cool with y'all?
Si, senor.
Why? Because it didn't look like she was hurting enough. And their social media campaign is rooted in showcasing that they are causing their political enemies to feel maximum misery. It's not about crime or justice. She's an attorney and knows where the boundaries are. She did not break the law. But that didn't matter because it's really about the fantasy fulfillment of inflicting cruelty upon one's enemies. If you show strength in the face of that, they will lie and make fake imagery of you because for them, it's more important to control the narrative. What's most important for the villain is not justice, it's to cause misery and suffering. And when the government lies to the public to achieve those ends, they lose what little trust they had left and totally cease to be a credible source. Motives like that inevitably give rise to a cycle that spirals in on itself, because nobody cares when misfortune befalls the bloodthirsty. So when you engage in cruelty, you dehumanize yourself. You paint a target on yourself. You give others permission to be cruel toward you and have a clean conscience while doing it, because you reap what you sow and you're forced to play by your own rules. You lose your innocence when you support cruelty. For example,
Simply, first of all, when these people come out and go, Tim's a bootlicker for defending us, I'm like, no, you misunderstand. It's my boots. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please go out and enforce the law. And anybody else who's cheering for it, who voted for it too, we're all wearing the boots. You're the one crying.
This is where it becomes...
So, look, I said I wasn't going to chime in, but Tim Pool, look, man, that guy earlier in the video where Mehdi Hassan's debating him, he's like, I guess you could say you're a fascist. And he was like, you're right. To me, Tim Pool is saying the exact same thing there. He is saying, you're right. I'm a fascist.
I am the boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a little bitch.
Question of will. Can you now crush the protests? What is involved in this? People gotta die. Actually, people do have to die. I don't know how people don't expect this. How is this not reasonable? All of this is justified. You know, what level of force do you think is acceptable?
And here's Fuentes
We
again.
need something more radical and
Wants to
more
crank it up.
extreme and more intense than anybody thinks is reasonable right now. That is what needs to happen. ICE has not gone far enough. Trump and the National Guard have not gone far enough. What's the answer to Trumpism? We need to build upon Trumpism. We need to deepen it. We need to expand it. We need to make it more radical. We need somebody in 2028 that makes Donald Trump look like a fucking joke. That's the only solution. That's what makes me worried. When I see people crying about a couple of dead left-wing protesters, you are simply not prepared for what has to happen next. There needs to be a lot more ICE. There needs to be a lot more of that sort of thing before we take our country back.
when you support violence against others, you naturally invite violence upon yourself. Action, reaction. That's one of the reasons I don't support corporal or capital punishment. I don't support violence, especially by the state, which has proven to be untrustworthy. I do not support violence against Tim Pool or Nick Fuentes, possibly some sort of nonviolent legal consequence for incitement, sure. But if something violent happened to them, videos like the ones I just showed you will spread like wildfire across the internet, effectively deterring a lot of sympathy that they might have had otherwise. People won't see that something bad happened to human beings. They'll see that something bad happened to the I voted for the boot guy and the I want more deaths guy. So they'll laugh and they'll point, and when they go to sleep that night, it will be with a very clean conscience. There's a right-wing meme that goes around using the image of Patrick Bateman, the serial killer from the movie American Psycho, and beneath his smiling face it says, quote, "How I wake up knowing my enemies are ontologically evil and there is no act against them which is wrong." See, they recognize the phenomenon to which I'm referring, the dehumanization of those who advocate cruelty. Rather than any sort of real evidence, though, they just use the word evil as an excuse. But rather than learn a valuable lesson from that, the meme instead expresses justification for it. It doesn't understand the cycle of violence it perpetuates. That justification for yourself also becomes justification for your enemies. In a sense, you are creating the argument that will be used against yourself. This is the cycle that is created when you elevate and idolize the villain. He doesn't solve your problems, he makes them worse. He doesn't create peace, he creates calamity and strife. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. You handed them the keys to power, and they gladly took them. Now you live by their rules. Germans thought Hitler was going to make Germany great again, but instead he destroyed it. His admirers would say that it was the other countries that attacked Germany and that Germany was just acting out of self-defense. Even though that's ridiculous, let's hypothetically say that it's true. In that case, he still wasn't a good enough leader to protect Germany, nor save Germany. That's necessarily true, given what happened, regardless of who you think started that fight. Why did he try to aggressively expand and seize territory? Why did he send troops to march across the borders of other countries? He pretended to care about peace throughout his rise to power, but once he was in power, it became about war and domination.
I've solved 8 wars.
Yeah, that's right.
He lied
exactly
to his people, just as he's lying to you in those old preserved speeches. His aggressiveness was his downfall. And now some people just want to repeat that same mistake. And it's being spurred on because of people who think they're being contrarians. And contrarianism is so cool, isn't it? Well, contrarianism stops being cool the moment you do it just to be cool. And when it's the actual power,
right?
Poison might as well be the thing that became fashionable. As we have people like podcasters angrily stomping and proclaiming that they are the boot to the laughter and cheers of their audience, as people with huge followings are calling for more killings right after people have already been killed, I want to leave you with a quote that used to perplex people. But given what is happening now, given the context of what I have shown you and told you in this video, I don't think it will perplex you at all. It's a quote from a survivor of Auschwitz. This is that quote. "It was not Hitler or Himmler who abducted me, beat me, and shot my family. It was the shoemaker, the milkman, the neighbor who received a uniform and then believed they were the master race." There was a relatively recent time when we did not understand how regular people, our own neighbors, could be capable of that. Well, I bet you're starting to see it now, aren't you?
You need people like me.
All right. Tony Montana, take us out. All right, guys. That was a long one. Any let's have the closing thoughts. Let's go with Billy.
Well, I guess I think the thing that still stands out is when society chooses the villain is the statement that he began with, and I think the only way that a villain gains power is if the society chooses it. But I don't think that everybody chooses the villain.
No.
And I'm not necessarily suggesting he's saying that. I'm saying that the problem is when more people choose the villain.
I think what he was more saying was more like when we get when we quit seeing the villain as villainy, maybe, like, I don't know, maybe villainous.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's not.
We empathize with the villain.
Yeah.
I know why he feels this way. I know why he does this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what I was getting at is that, you know, the just talking about movies and art and literature, etc. The idea that we look to the villain and they become the more interesting character. I'm going to go back to my Star Trek thing. I think what made Star Trek something that I glommed onto in 2008, it would have been 2012, 14, somewhere in that range. I started watching those, and I realized that I would rather see people that live by an ideal that is promoting the betterment of people, not the hatred of people.
Right.
And that's what guides me, that kind of thing. And that's why I'm drawn to that series. Whereas I've never liked, you know, mentioned horror movies. I don't like horror movies. I never have. I think they're terrible. They're usually bad movies as far as I'm concerned. And it's not because they're evil. I just find them not interesting. But I never understood people that latched on to Darth Vader, for instance. I never understood people that latched on to the villain and said, "Oh, they're the ones that people dressing in stormtrooper costumes," because
I honestly, man, I don't care if you do. I just care.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
Transfers over to the point where you're like, Hitler is fine.
Right. If you're just having fun with a stormtrooper costume, that's fine. If you're having fun, that's perfectly good. I have a friend who has a Obi-Wan costume that is pretty darn good, and he's in his 70s, by the way, and he wears it to Star Trek conventions. But no, my point is that I agree with, and society chooses the villain, and that is where we are. Society's choosing the villain, and I have to believe that there's a lot of other that stand around and go, I'm not going to choose the villain.
Can I just say that I am hopeful? It seems like recently, even on like my social media, that it does feel like there has been a shift in temperature, or maybe not temperature, but I don't know. There's a long way to go yet, but I just feel like the people are starting to see it more. But there's going to be 30% that just won't.
That's right. And the best meme I've seen in recent weeks is "Be pretty good."
I would agree. That's a pretty good one. Adrian, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with most of what he said. I enjoyed that video, and I think he named a lot. I think for him to put to words a lot of how they're thinking, I think was very important. Where I don't know where he sits or where we sit or where I sit is just what do we do with that information? Because it felt like more like he was explaining it, but it's almost like it's subconscious to them, those who are choosing the villain. And I'm not convinced that it's subconscious in any way. I think they actively want to be this. I think there's a power in it that they want to be attached to and find and can monetize and possibly make themselves look even better. And they know that they're doing it.
Certain people for sure, but the standard.
I think. Well, I'm sorry. I don't. That's and so that where I don't know that I'm with you, because there's always like, well, there's these few people are, but most of them are like
no. I mean,
not. And I'm like, I don't.
No, I mean, certain people are trying to monetize it. I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. But I think the vast majority of them know exactly what this is and embrace it in an I'm not brainwashed way. It's like, this is how I want the power, and this is how I'm going to get it. And yes, I know whether so, there are some people that don't, but like for the most part, they know that this is unethical, this isn't right, this isn't necessary, but it's the way they'll get ahead, or the way they see themselves getting ahead. And then, so what do we do? Because I don't know that, I don't believe that we can talk them down. And as much as, and that's different. I'm not saying that as a pastor or even as a good person trying to see where we can bond and come, all of that. I'm like, I don't know we can bond. And I'm more of the like, so what do we do when someone who doesn't want to bond with us and is harming people with how they want to move in the world and what they vote for and the things they want to see? What do we do to protect ourselves and the people we say we're standing up for in a way that's not just allowing them, like, kind of like we're walking beside them as it gets worse and worse, because we're like, well, what are they doing? And we're just like, how do we stop it?
So
if we can't convince them, how do we stop it?
So
what's our next move?
I think that, when I was saying, hey, the Matthew 25 stuff is a place of common ground, I'm thinking of people that are moved by that already, right? But then how can they, like, join forces with somebody who doesn't believe fully the way, they do? Maybe not join forces, but just, like, find that common place, right? Listen, if you're one of that 30%, 25%, or whatever it is that are just like, I am cognitively not just like,
I voted for the boot.
I vote.
Are you sure it's 30%? Are you sure it's not 60%, 70%?
So I would say 30% are cognitively aware. There's another 30% that I couldn't put. That's going to add to that percentage, but I just don't know if it's more people that are just like they're not in touch with what's going on. They just do what their people do. They're easily manipulated, even as my guy here said, like, by words that came from the 1930s, 100 years ago at this point.
So, Edmund Pettus Bridge. Why did that have such an impact on the civil rights movement? It is because people showed up and showed the atrocity of the reality of the racism and the laws that were holding people back. And it had the impact because people saw that. Freddie's murder having followed Good's murder.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about that is, though, man, like, another thing that pisses me off a little bit, I'm not, it is getting more attention now because it was two white folk. Because, I mean, we already have, like, what was it, 39 deaths in ICE custody already? And these are brown.
Right. Well, I don't disagree with you, but I also think that it was on multiple videos. And like you said,
it was obviously incredibly right in front of everybody.
This was so blatantly people out of control. A guy wearing a mask, carrying a gun, and waving their. Keep in mind, a lot of these things you see with the guys on video, they're pulling their guns out long before law officers would be pulling their.
Yeah. What's funny about those
now
two
this
dudes
guy
too, is that I mean, first off, it wasn't ICE. I mean, they're all ICE, right?
It was DHS.
No, well, I mean, it's all DHS.
Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Border Patrol?
Yeah, it's Border Patrol. And these weren't like new recruits.
Right.
And they're also of, Hispanic descent, like they, I don't know.
So what I was getting at, though, is Adrian's asking, what do we do? And I think that
I think you ostracize the people that are that 30%.
Well, you find those ones in the middle, and you keep
They're harder, they're
putting
slicker,
this.
so you have to kind of like figure it out, and you gotta
Well,
hope.
no, they're the ones that are the more likely to see this and go.
Well, what
Wait
I'm
a
saying
second.
is like they're slicker if they are of that percentage. Like, so if 30% are just out and out, like they're, they are the boot. I voted for this. I'm the boot, right?
Right.
They're cognitively aware of what is happening. Of that next 30% that Adrian was saying, let's say 10% of them are like, well, I'm the boot, but I'm just not going to tell nobody, right? And then that other 20% are people that are just like really too out of touch to know. Maybe they're literally, cognitively, like it's just not, this is beyond them. Simple solutions, even if they're violent, are solutions, right? They're just too, I think that there is a subgroup within that group of people that you can reach. So that's kind of where I live on that, right? But as far as those people that are like, nah, man, I voted for this, I'm the boot, they can just get out of your life. That would be my advice. My advice, if you're one of those, if you have people in your life that say, I am the boot, get them out of your life.
The lesson from the civil rights era, 60s, 50s, and 60s was make it so that the average folks sitting in the average white folks sitting in Iowa has some visceral, real connection with the black folks in Selma. And maybe I connect to that because that was like but the reality is that was a part of the strategy for the civil rights movement. Make sure that people saw the extreme of what was going on. And maybe not even the extreme, but next layer inside that, because the extreme was hangings and but to show police brutality that this is what was happening, and this was in the daily lives that were just trying to walk from Selma to Montgomery. That was that one thing. It took 2 times for them to get across that. And the sight of that brutality did change minds in the heartland of America, the places outside of the South. It did change minds. And I think that the thing we can do is keep showing and keep the spotlight on and say, this is wrong.
And change as much as we can.
Right.
All right. So I'm go ahead.
Well, there's one other thing there that did a lot of research into how movements overtake a fascist movement. And it is that 3% of the population, and it's between 3.
The stat.
Essentially, yeah. That's the simplest way to put it. Yeah. If 3% of the population, so that means a lot of people.
Right.
It means, what's 3% of
10 million. 10, 11 million.
It's like 10, it's like 12 million, 11, 12 million. So if you get to that place where you have 9, 10 people showing up at No King's protest, it does have an impact. That they're not just sitting back clicking like.
I gotta be honest with you. I actually don't think the No King. I think the No King's protests, even though it galvanizes some people, I don't think they're doing a lot. I think the protests in Minnesota are real protests.
They are, but
like those are
the
ones that are like making the.
But that No Kings thing is again showing in communities across the country that there are people who agree with it.
I'm with you, but like they're a little toothless in some ways, in my opinion.
They are, but the numbers matter.
The numbers matter, but I'm just saying, like, it's you get on any of these like message board, whatever, they'll just be like, the conservatives will be like, well, I guess there's still no kings, so good job, guys. And it's like, well, we're trying to say he's acting like a king, but I don't want to get in this argument. Anyway, the point is that
I would argue that the mistake.
But
I'd argue the mistake you're making is that you think that's for them. Like, we know we're not going to convince them. Like he was saying, it's the show, like the numbers, like, oh, there's actually 10 million or whatever the number is of like-minded people.
What I'm
So
saying
now
is
we got the strength to go to Minneapolis. It's not going to convince.
Right.
It's not for Trump to look at it and be like, "Oh, these people are against me." He doesn't care. You're right. You're 100% right on that. But it's for us.
But
whether we need that or not, I don't know. But
the
I know
protests in Minneapolis are like they're like a real impediment to this, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, I get
it's just different.
I agree with you.
A different goal to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I would say this: it is one issue. It is the ICE issue and the brutality, and that, and that's why the energy is so focused in that. And it's also protection of their own space. But for that to spread nationally, people in Minnesota, so we're going to take over. The federal government's going to take over 15 states voting, and so we'll make that up. But you look at the differences that are happening in the non-midterm elections, special elections, and it is having an impact. Places where Donald Trump won 15-30% are they're being landslides for somebody, Democrats. So it does make a difference.
It all kind of works. It kind of all works together. Like if you take some of these things by themselves in the vacuum, it's not much. But like if you combine them with 5 or 6 other things that we're doing, then it's a So I hear you, but I'm like,
you got to keep it galvanized. I get it, man.
Yeah, you gotta. I would just adjust what do I think this is actually for? Like this,
right?
Like the No Kings is not. I think you're right. Some people do go out there and think this No Kings protest is all I need to do, and that's it. I showed them. And they go home. I'm
not saying don't do that. I'm not saying I'm not against the No Kings protests. I'm just saying we're to the point where it's like there's going to be masked men on the streets and people are protesting, and that's like a different kind of animal.
Right. And I'm with you, but I want to push back on a couple of things, and not so much push back because you're wrong or even to try to get an answer, but it's more I want us to when we're thinking about whatever we're doing, this is something that I tend to have in my mind, which kind of helps keep me a little motivated when I'm down. But I guess now I'm losing my train of thought. Hold on, I was gonna go somewhere. I promise.
You were pushing back on me.
Right. So, or maybe kind of. So when I was like, so what do we do? But I think like one of the things as I'm looking at history and I'm struggling with watching is like I go back to those civil rights protests as well. But I think we often forget that the enemy, or whatever you want to call it, they also learn from stuff too. And I think there's a lot of like the fact that 2 people had to get shot a week apart to have an impact, at least amongst us. But even still, you see what's coming out is like they've done a good job for their people, at least I should say, of turning this into like, if you're just even out there, you are obstructing justice, and you can get a bullet, and I'm okay with that. Like I wasn't there. I don't know. From what I've learned growing up with the civil rights, I don't know that was presented. Like I think the initial shock overcame any of their rhetoric. I think now they know, hey, we got to really amp up this rhetoric. We're going after the worst of the worst. Like all of that rhetoric has gotten to the point where a lot of these protests I don't know that they're not as shocking when you see somebody being roughed up or pushed. Because we've seen plenty of people getting pushed. And like my wife got arrested. They grabbed her. She dropped her glasses. They wouldn't let her pick them up. So she actually had to pick them up with her mouth. And there's like this cool picture of her like being led away with her glasses in her mouth.
Yeah, that was, I saw you post. Yeah, that was neat.
You saw it. So it's like, we've seen the roughing up, and we've seen people get pushed down. And that wasn't swaying people, but then it's like, do we have to sacrifice more and more people? Like, do we have to get shot? Like, so while we're talking about like convincing people And I'm saying, like, what do we do now that it's here? Because at the end of the day, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they didn't have the time for us to convince anyone, right? They didn't get that time. And there's someone else. There's always, those people now who aren't getting it. The people who are detained and disappeared. Those people didn't get the time for us to change their minds. So I'm more asking, like, in lieu of that, is there anything we could be doing different or should be? And I personally don't have an answer, but I put that out there to be like, I do kind of understand the more radical stances and people who want to fight back in certain other ways. And I'm not saying I fully agree, but I do think we need to take that seriously. Like that, right? Even as we're trying to figure out what to do, there's some people right now who don't have time for us to take another year or two to convince these people that something needs to change. Right. So is there something we could be doing now? Like with the protest, is there another step? Or is it just kind of like all showing up at Minneapolis or all showing up in Portland? And maybe that's the answer for right now. And but I present that to all of us, everybody.
I think maybe for me, when I see those kind of things, it's not like, I know why they're there and I know why they're important. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It might just be being down. Honestly.
I think that. So let me say this. I think there's a lot of things that are. You mentioned earlier. There's a lot of things that go into play that this. Well, most of us can't just drop everything and go to Minneapolis.
Right.
But I can go to Bluefield, West Virginia, and stand with 200 people. That last time was 150 people. And it encourages.
Like I said, I don't want to denigrate people that do this. I don't want to say.
But hold on, I'm not. It's not about that. It's about why is it effective and why does it matter? Why it matters is because it encourages some that thought they were alone and so they couldn't say anything because they thought I'm alone. I live in a red area. I know that it's very hard for somebody with a D beside their name to get elected. To get even votes, forget getting elected. That's a pipe dream at this point. But for these folks to be able to say, I'm not alone in standing up for this. It is encouraging the flock, so to speak. But it's also reminding the folks in the that there are other choices for them to be able to. And you can't win it all at one time. You can only make one basket at a time. And yes, some of them are 3-pointers, but the free throws matter too. Yeah. And this is a free throw. Take the free throws as often as you can.
Luke, a good screen helps. It doesn't get you any points, but you got to have them good screens.
That's right. So it's encourage that and show up if you can. But also, what else? Be aware. When can I step in? When can I make a little difference?
Yeah, listen. I'm realizing this. My opinions of that is just basically me just being a sourpuss. We're literally on a podcast that nobody hardly watches. Bitching and moaning and hoping that somebody will hear it, right?
Keep in mind, my bishops have said nothing, and Adrian's wife's bishops have said, "Get your affairs in order."
All right, boys. I think our affairs for this particular episode are in order, and we can move on. We spent an extra 50 minutes on, and I appreciate y'all very much for your thoughts and ideas.
Have fun editing.
Hate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit that red button and I'm done. You got it.
Yeah, I'll get on the computer and spend 8 hours and edit the whole thing up. All right. I've also got game show edit stuff to do. Editing, it's if you're a creative person, this is totally up. There's a lot of ways to create now, but man, you do have to sit in front of a computer.
Yep, that's right.
So, all right, boys, let's call this one. And thanks to all the commenters, Ed and such. And we'll do this again. We're not on a regular schedule. If anybody's still out there anymore, we don't do it weekly. We just kind of get an idea, and we're just gonna like rock one out.
Art Vandelay.
Oh, the guy from Seinfeld.
All right. Thank you, boys.
All right.
All right. Cool.
So Luke, you have to relearn how to say the name Eugenio Suarez.
I have to learn how to say what?
Eugenio Suarez again.
Oh, is that one of the killers' names?
No, it's the third baseman for the Reds.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm still in like politics mode. Yeah.
It's the best freaking name in baseball, and he's signed with the Reds.
What is his name again?
Eugenio Suarez.
Eugenio.
He started playing for the Reds. Played maybe 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Played third base, and then they traded him to Seattle, and then he went to Arizona or somewhere, and then he went back to Seattle. Played for Seattle in the playoffs last year, and he hit 49 home runs last year.
He's with the Reds,
and the Reds just signed him for a $15 million deal, and they have the best defensive third baseman also on their roster. So
they probably should put him somewhere else.
Well, the problem is that the best defensive third baseman is Keith Ryan Hayes.
Eugenio. So they don't just say Eugenio; they say Eugenio. Okay.
It's Eugenio. In Spanish, all the letters are pronounced.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I speak Spanish a little bit.
A lot of them call him Gino.
Okay, fair enough.
But Eugenio, I love that name. And
So
I was hoping the Pirates would sign him.
So he's back with the Reds.
Yeah, but look at his last year.
Yeah, no, his last
year.
He
started with it. I was wrong. It's more than 5 years. He played for them.
He started with Detroit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years with the Reds.
Yeah.
But look at them home runs last year.
Yeah, that's a nice number. Between
49.
Teams. Yeah. Billy, it's 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Let's get out of here, dude. Thank you again. Adrian wanted to do one. I was like, well, let's do one. So, if you want to do one.
I think we were due one way or the other, and I think that was the right topic. I think that was.
Well, the reason I picked that video is because it really did kind of hit a lot of the topics.
Yeah.
We're talking about it talked about streamers, it talked about, freaking the Pretty and Good situation. It talked about, fascism and what it is and how it's rising. And it talks about maybe how it could be, I just
So are you disconnected from YouTube? I don't think you are because it's showing up on my screen on my phone.
Are we still talking on YouTube? That's interesting.
Looks like it.